Becoming Awesome with Peter D. Expand your consciousness. Welcome to Becoming Awesome. Today we're going to take a deep dive with an interview with Murshida Habiba Ashki Kabir. And we're going to really talk about what it's like to process emotions fully and the kind of freedom and spiritual insight you get from doing your inner work. Habiba lives in Boulder, Colorado with her beloved husband, Kabir. For years, she's been following guidance to lead her to the wisdom needed to polish her heart. She has spent decades of unraveling her lineages, clearing stuck emotions, and healing trauma, both with her own life and lineage, and also clearing inherited trauma from the collective. She's an astrologer. She's been a leader of a spiritual community for over 20 years. And we're going to have her introduce herself a little bit more when we get started. But first, let me say welcome, Habiba.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I'm so honored that you're willing to be vulnerable and share with everybody what's going on in your life. I think that's so important in this day and age.
I agree.
All righty. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. We live in the internet era, and it's controlled by certain companies that will not share messages unless you play by their rules, which means I'm going to ask you to push the like button, push the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, please follow. And most important, share this video. That'll help the algorithm put it out in front of more people. All right. Having said that, let's just dive right in. Habiba, can you just briefly tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you're doing now, and more importantly, your spiritual path? What's led you to the present?
Well, I sort of came in with this question, like, what are they doing here? You know, as a child, I could not get it. It was like, where's the love? I just don't understand. What are the rules here? It makes no sense. So I ended up I was spending a lot of time in the top of a tree, and also just really being curious about, what are they doing? And so watching and becoming really the observer, and then beginning after a time to watch myself, like, okay, what's happening here? What is this? And
wow, I'm jealous. You had self-observation skills as a child. Whew, that went right by me. So what else happened?
Yeah, so I just really realized after a time that the old patterns just didn't work for me. It's like, I had done all the things, been married, had a child, had a house, and it was like, you got to be kidding. Like 50 more years of this? No, this is ridiculous. So I took my child and I went to Canada for a time, and, ended up in Seattle and with a lot of people from other countries because Boeing was big then. So I started hearing different perspectives, different ways of viewing the world, and really searching. And after some time, moved to Colorado and had gotten married again in the meantime and ended up with another child. But I was living in a place in the mountains where everyone was searching. So it was just this big time in the, early 70s, I guess, maybe late 70s, where everybody was like, who am I? What is this? And so
You're lucky to actually be in a community where people are asking those questions. That makes all the difference in just struggling alone.
It does help. And, people were finding, according to their own hearts, their path. And they were all different, which was very interesting to me.
Right. Now, I know that you've been a teacher in the Sufi tradition for quite some time. And tell me, what attracted you to Sufism as far as your spiritual path? I mean, other than the poet Rumi, which is like a calling card. That's just so good.
Of course. Let's see. Well, I had to back up a little bit then to tell you this. I got very involved with the emissaries of divine light, which are up in Loveland, Colorado. And because I had been gathering like information from all sorts of sources, because I love to read, I had a notebook that was like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And whenever I had read something that really resonated, I plugged it into my journal, wherever
Nice.
it. So when I met the emissaries, I realized they had what I had in my journal and more. So I got very involved with them and ended up in an emissary center in Kansas City.
So for somebody like me and our other listeners, emissaries, what does that mean?
It's messengers. So like a messenger of divine light.
Got it.
Yeah. And it's something that started by Lloyd Meeker, who also was like wanting to teach. He was like, so much was coming into him. No one would listen, so he started teaching horses. They loved it. But anyway, it went to people eventually. So sorry, I'm rambling.
No, it's good. This is important because we all have our journey and we've all been influenced by so many things. And what I like about you describing your story so far is that you just didn't hang your hat on one thing the entire time. You were searching, you were scientific, you kept notes, you fit the pieces together. So
Yeah.
bring us into the current day.
Yeah. So after a time with that, I met the Sufis, one particular strand of the Sufis in Kansas City, where I was living with in the emissary community. And I just felt my heart just expand, like, oh, home, this is beautiful. And so I was doing both for a time, but then the emissary leader in Kansas City said, you can't do both. You have to choose, and I was like, bye.
Right. Yeah. I hate it when people tell me my past got to be just what they say. I hate that.
Exactly. So then I really immersed myself into what's called the Chisti order. It's from India. And I was lucky enough that they were really at that point in time, and I think still, searching on all different levels for practices that worked with the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body. So there was a lovely teacher. Well, you were asking about current day. So let's
just go right to the emotional body because that's the topic for today.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've been doing emotional clearing for a very long time. Tell me about what got you interested in emotional clearing.
That's funny because that's right where I was. There was an old Sufi teacher named Murshida Habiba who came to a camp in the Ozarks almost every year on Memorial Day weekend. And she was beautiful. She was like this amazing being who was this cranky old lady and then would suddenly turn into the ultimate goddess, and just the power through her. And one time she said to us, I'm going to give you guys a practice. She said, it says in the Bible that the sins of the fathers carry to the children, even into the fourth generation, I think it is. And so I want you to know that cellularly, you're carrying memories from your whole lineage, and they're going forward into the future too. So if you don't stop and clear those, you're never going to be the true human being that you were meant to be.
Yeah, I just want to interject that I had a teacher tell me that, we get all caught up in sin like we're doing wrong. And if you go back to the original Hebrew and you look at the certain translations, it's kind of a mistranslation in that they were really talking about errors in judgment.
Exactly.
Okay, it's not like you're bad or wrong. There were errors in judgment. And from what I heard you say is that this can be impacted in your cell and passed along generation to generation through your DNA. All right. Yeah. And call it karma, call it what you will, but we come in with these dense, heavy energies. Okay. So continue, please.
Yeah. So what she said was, we can clear this for them. And then when we clear it for them, we clear it for ourselves. And then we clear it for the future generations and our children and grandchildren, And I had some years before that gotten just suddenly like a passion for genealogy. And so I had been exploring my family. Now, I don't even like history, so I had no idea why I was interested in genealogy suddenly. And I took courses and, did a bunch of research. So I had my family, the family tree and all kinds of stories and everything already. So it just like something else plugged into what she said.
It's kind of interesting because I came at it backwards from you. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do this, but I came at because I was just in such pain. I kept clearing and clearing and clearing. And as I did that, boom, my ancestors would pop in and they'd start saying, can we come along? So I started inviting them, right? And then I started to realize, oh my God, I'm clearing things that I've held and they've held. And then all of a sudden, it's like just funny story after funny story for my friends who are channels said, your mom's talking to me. She wants to bring these different aunts and grandparents to your next process. I'm like, okay. So but you came at it from the ancestor point of view. So please continue.
Yeah. So what she said was there's lots of ways to clear it. You can like have a mass said, which of course I wasn't Catholic, so that didn't appeal. Or she said, the thing that really resonated with me was she said, set up an altar, start with, whichever relative that you seem to have the most issues with, like your mother or your father or grandmother or whatever, and make an altar. I made for my mother, and, put on it a picture of her, a picture of you as a baby, maybe, things she would like. And my mother was a bird watcher, so I had lots of feathers and candles and things, And then she said, sit every day for 10 minutes and just say to them, I'm here for you. I'm listening. What did you not finish? What did you never forgive or be forgiven for? Or
that's a very nice way to access that information.
Yeah. Or what gift did you bring that you never were able to share? So you just, ask a question and then just listen.
Great. I'm always been on a different approach. This is why I love talking to you. Is there's so many different ways to get this, but it gets you to the same place. You clear this stuck energy out of you, then you and your lineage past and your lineage forward gets cleared. One teacher that I really, really like tells me anything fully experienced turns to bliss.
Yes.
All right. So can you comment on that and comment about what it's like when you get the information from your ancestors about different blockages or different gifts that weren't expressed? What do you do with it?
Well, I have found that in the inner worlds, you have all kinds of power. You can do anything. So if they say, oh, well, so-and-so did this and that, and it's like, if I forgive them, if I go in and actually tend to my mother as a child and bring together her with, the antagonist or whatever, in a way that changes the story, then I began to see my children change, like layers of an onion coming off them, like.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You do a process that you think is over here for this person, and then this other person in your sphere, your life changes because of the magnetic attractions. You're no longer holding that energy. And this is the part that gets me. I love it and I hate it at the same time. I'll clear something out of me. And then somebody who is just a total, insert whatever expletive you'd like, okay? They were just totally terrible, would all of a sudden be great and wonderful towards me. And when I'd be kind of hesitant to interact with them and kind of mention what was going on, they'd have no memory of any of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, because I did what I did, I flipped into a timeline where now they're expressing as a different person. So I have to let go of my ego of being right and getting my revenge and all that stuff, because now I'm in a different timeline if I choose to stay there, where this person is just all free because of work I've done. It's crazy. You've had experiences like that.
Totally. Yeah.
Good. So let me just ask you, you've spent a lot of time clearing charges. You said once when I was speaking on the phone recently, you told me that you spent an entire summer doing that. So was it more than just being in front of the altar and getting information? What else did you do?
Yeah. Well, okay, so another step on the path that happened in between what we were talking about and that was that I met a man named Sheikh Noor, who from a different Sufi order. And when I met him at a camp, I didn't know who he was. And I took a hold of his hand. He was like, hello, and everything went white. And I just stood there for I don't know how long. It was like, wow. And when I came back, I was like, wow. And he said, wow, you must have heard a lot about me. I never saw anyone just take the whole transmission like that. And I was like, who are you? I started laughing. Anyway, and it was Sheikh Noor from a different order that's from Turkey. And that's where I became the teacher And that order is quite Islamic and in Turkey, very patriarchal. But as it came to the West and through Sheikh Noor, he put women in charge of things, which was
Great.
Great.
So you got the transmission, and then what did you start to express? I really want our listeners and viewers to actually know part of the process. So how did that transfer into your daily practice?
So it seemed to provoke all the patriarchal issues that I'd ever had.
Right. I'm on the side where I give you those issues. So I'm, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to be on this side of the gender thing.
No, it's fine. It was just like someone had told me one time, I don't even want to touch you because you've had so much, this was an acupuncturist, you've had so much pain from the patriarchy, that I would notice as he put a needle in, my skin would crawl away from it. It's like there was that much trauma there. So I really began to explore that too. When these issues would come up, which they often did, I ended up, oh my God, this is so convoluted. I'm sorry. I can't really tell it without going back. But before I moved to the woods, I had been there. They found a lump in my breast and they wanted to do a biopsy. And I said, how much would that cost? And they said $1,000. And then we just know what it is, right? And I was like, no, I can heal it for that. I'm sure of it. Because I knew a lot of healers. So I ended up doing a year of work. And this was just after I met Sheikh Noor of like going to certain healers that I knew of in different parts of the country. And then spending a year with a Sufi teacher who did family therapy, voice dialogue, rebirthing, all kinds of things. And we just met, at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times, to just clear this because I realized there's a part of me that does not want to be here.
Right.
And she said, so rewrite the rules. And I wrote this paper called The Conditions Under Which I'm Willing to Live in This World.
That's actually really important. I know one of the teachers I follow, Analia Benz, is very clear about just you lay the law down because you are the law. It's what the Ramtha always said. You're the king of your consciousness, the queen of your consciousness. So you just lay the law down. Will live here under these conditions. Exactly. When I interview G.W. Harden, he keeps saying, we've got inherent thriving. You just have to choose it. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that you made it very clear the terms of your existence.
I did. And Good. Then after that, I moved to the woods. And I had to clear everything in the way of that. So that's what the guidance was. And so I asked the trees. I was living in the middle of the Ozarks on 5 acres of land in the middle of 1,000 acres of environmentally protected forest. So there was no one close. So I asked the trees, would you mind if I scream? And they were like, no, it's good fertilizer.
Nice, nice. So you made it a practice to daily do some screaming.
Yeah. And things would come up. It wasn't even like I was choosing it, particularly. It was like things would be provoked some way. You'd think that there wouldn't be anything to provoke it, but believe me,
Well,
things.
this is the way it is. My understanding is we hold a blockage, and it's like magnetic energy. It pulls stuff towards us to provoke us, right? Like my friends in AA used to say when they poke you, "Does this hurt?"
Yeah,
Just to get you moving,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's great. So now, before we get into what happened for you as far as the result, that I just want to share my own little story here.
Okay.
Uh, I got turned on to the Right Use of Will books. That's a whole very interesting story,
Yeah.
and it helped me just move charges. So I was living in Guam at the time, so 2 or 3 times a week I would go to a very secluded beach on the military base during the middle of the day when no one would be there because I had military access pass, and I would just strip down, get in the water on the beach, and just let it rip. Just say, okay, whatever's coming to me, let it out. And then I moved to Santa Fe, and a couple of times a week, I'd drive up to the national forest. I'd climb up a ravine where I wouldn't be by anybody. I'd find a dead spot. I'd find a place where the bugs had done something to the trees, and it was just basically dead. And say, can I let it out here? And then I wasn't just screaming. I would be grabbing sticks and breaking logs and just really going ape as much as I could. And that was kind of my early process on moving this. So I just want people listening and watching to understand that this is not insanity, but this is actually a method of madness to let things go. What did you start finding happened in your life as you made these releases?
Well, I started writing for one thing, and so almost like a blog before there was such a thing, like a journal. And living in the middle of the Ozarks, I ended up selling subscriptions to it because I had to make money some way. But the thing was that there was more wisdom that would come through because there wasn't all this gunk in the way.
That's such an important point that I want to emphasize for everyone who's attending to this podcast, okay? It's like we're all seeking, like, how come God doesn't talk to me? How come I don't have inspiration? How come I'm not creative? And the thing is, you are, but there's blockages which are built up over a lifetime or lifetimes that are keeping you from expressing your true self. And as I said in an earlier podcast, the one just before this, which I suggest everyone go back. And so there's a nice little process you can use to help you release your charges. As I said in that podcast, the only way through it is through it. So you're gaining more information and more wisdom. What else is happening in your life?
Well, I had a dream. Okay. I had a dream after about a year in the woods that it seemed like something was finished. And the particular order that I'm in with Sheikh Noor is guided by dreams. So I called Noor and I said, Noor, it's Habiba. I had a dream. And he said, move to Boulder. And I was like, what? But I have 5 acres in the, I went on and on. He was like, yeah, okay. Go to Boulder for a month. Call me every day. Stay with so-and-so. They have a room. It's like, okay, don't you want to hear the dream? Yeah. Okay, so I told him the dream. She said, see, moved to Boulder.
See?
So I said, okay, I mean, I'll check it out. So I went to Boulder, and every day I called him, and every day I said, Noor, what am I doing in Boulder? And every day he said, only Allah knows this.
Say that again.
Only Allah knows this.
Oh, nice. Here this is like such a trust journey. This is such a
Yeah,
trust journey.
yeah. So, he said, take everybody, there was a circle that had started because he and I had come to Boulder to do a weekend right after I met him. So I had a kind of like a connection to the circle that had started here, the Sufi circle. So he said, take everyone to lunch one at a time and ask them how they're doing and how the circle is. Well, it became very apparent that things needed to change. So I was still resisting, mind you, moving to Boulder and leaving the woods, But I asked my son, who was also with me, who was late teenager, and I said, "Well, what do you think?" And Ashki is his name. He has Asperger's, so he's just like unconditional love. It's like you can pretty much, if he says something, you can pretty much trust it. I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Well, it's home."
There you go. It's home.
So I was like, okay. So we went back and sold the property, which is unheard of because the Ozarks are somewhat depressed, as far as real estate moving. Sold it, just wham, and moved to Boulder. So
Nice.
I
Let's jump to the very recent, a
yeah,
week before we recorded this.
yeah,
You called me one day because you had a charge, and I'd like you, if you feel okay, to share what was going on share with our listeners and viewers what was going on with you with that charge, and just talk a little bit about how working that process led to the opening it led to.
okay. So I had read something on Facebook, and I won't go into what it was, but it was a very patriarchal statement about spirituality has to be one particular way, according to the culture where it arose from.
Right, my way or the highway. I
Yeah,
love this too because my relatives, most of them express Christianity, and they just don't seem to grapple with the idea that I get when looking on the outside. There's over 2,000 sects of Christianity in the United States alone.
yeah.
So how do we know? And of course, they're all telling me I've got the right one, right? So that's how it expresses in my life. In your life, it's this patriarchal. This way, you do it this way. And to me, the whole reason I'm doing this podcast, the whole reason I've been called to do this podcast is to tell everybody, look, there's no barriers between you and God, you and the divine. It is you. It is in you. You are it. Call it what you want. But the path is within, and you have the ability to access that. So tell me, you were getting charged about somebody telling you you can't access your divine.
They weren't telling me. They were telling it was a post on Facebook.
Okay.
It wasn't directed at me, but it triggered me. And I felt just this huge, blockage, like in my upper chest. I always find it in my body because that seems to be the best way for me, at least, to access it. And, I worked with it a while, but there wasn't any words to it. There wasn't really, it didn't seem to be talking. And so I thought, so what shall I do? And I thought, I should call Peter. So I called you, or I emailed you, and you called. And you just said, what does it look like? Talk to me about it. What does it look like? How does it feel? And it felt like I couldn't see it. There was like this fog there. But as you asked me to breathe into it, I felt that it was smoke. And it was from the burning times, which I have been working with anyway over the years, because so many women carry trauma, European women carry trauma from that period of time. And it's like we can't talk. So it's totally upper chest and throat chakra. So anyway, you said something about, okay, I'm here for it. You just breathe into it. And suddenly I just started screaming. It was like, now this is not new. This kind of thing has happened before, but it was so powerful and it was so quick. It just like cut through that, released it. And then I was like, oh, thanks very much. That was really good.
Well, thanks. And this is the part where my desire for significance, I'm going to do a whole episode on the craving significance. This is the part where I'm going to go claim some significance. I've recently found that I have the ability to be present with people when they're moving charges, and it just, things break out. I don't understand the science of it yet. All I know is that this is a gift that's been given to me and I've been called to share it. It's one of the reasons I'm doing these podcasts. If you choose to make a donation, you'll get my email. You can talk to me, and I'm happy to work with you on a donation basis. If you choose to donate at the $77 a month level, I will give you a session included in that every month. So just letting you know that things are happening on this whole planet, and everybody's gifts are starting to express. And you actually gave me a gift of realizing to step forward in my power, that when I interact with people, clearings can take place. Now, what really got me is that later you sent me an email about what happened when you started to get some understanding later in your day.
Well, you had said something about at the end. Anyway, this is what I heard, whether you said it or not. I heard, well, spend some time with it now, make a commitment, I think you said, for a couple of weeks, that you would really see if you can move that energy up into your throat so it has a voice. So how I usually work with my own process is I draw an animal medicine card. I don't know if you know that deck, but it's very Native American.
Right.
And I pull an animal, and I pulled fox. And then I just go inside and follow that animal with intention to take me to the place or to the one who knows what this is about and has the answers to my questions. And usually the animal kind of like shapeshifts into a being. And that's what happened. And I ended up in this place with this woman who was like in this long cape, kind of rusty brown color like a fox. And she took me to this place that was called the sanctuary. And she said it was where the feminine light had been sequestered after the burning times or during the burning times. As our sisters were burning, she said, as our mothers and daughters were burning, we captured or we gathered the feminine light, and we took it to this place, and we set protective shields around it. And we've been waiting for you to ask for our help. For
Nice.
all this time, not me particularly, but humanity.
This is the time. This is the time where we're going to blossom. This is the time where, me as a man, on behalf of all men everywhere, are going to step forward and say, we've really screwed over half the people on this planet because we're insecure.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want about it, but basically we're afraid. So we've been screwing people and putting them down and literally killing them for their talents.
Yes.
And so I'm honored that you're willing to bring that forward again. And this is the thing that all of us are going to have to come forward with. And so you have that kind of message from an emotional clearing experience.
Well, plus you are not just masculine. Yes, you are on the outside, but you also carry the feminine. So that part of you has been suppressed.
Anything I've done to you, I've done to me.
So, it's like, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about the feminine.
Right. I understand that. I'm just being flippant because it's my nature.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just want to make that clear because so many men then begin to feel insecure, and that just adds to the problem.
Oh, see, this is where you and I are different. This is where I would go, oh, does this hurt? You're feeling insecure now? Why don't you move that motion?
Well, that too.
So I want to make a comment here because I think for me, when I was working with you, the guidance I received, and again, this is all brand new to me to actually be a channel for guidance when I'm working with somebody else. It's like, I don't understand how this works, but it's happening. And was just, well, this is for everybody. You need to make friends with your trapped emotion. You need to welcome it. You need to welcome it. And for you, particularly, the guidance I was go to this trapped emotion every single day. And you didn't even need to do it every single day. You got it in one shot. And that was just to go in and say, you're my friend. You are welcome here. So that's the problem that I see, is that we've been dual for so long, and we've then created good and bad as a result of that. These are good emotions. These are bad ones. Oh, I don't want to feel that. You're a bad one. You're not welcome here. Oh, this was painful in the past. It hurt me the last time I touched it, whatever it was. That needs to be welcomed, to be brought to the light so it can clear and we can evolve.
Right.
And, all I was asking you to do was just to welcome it, to spend some time with it every day, to give it voice, let it express as it wants to express, not as we're going to tell it to.
Yep.
Can you comment on whether or not that philosophy works for you in clearing emotional charges?
Totally. That's what I do too, is just, sit with it, just like in front of an altar, like we talked about earlier. It's like, I'm here for you. I love you. What do you need? And then listen. And in a very unconditionally loving way. So there's not judgment. It's not something is wrong here. No, it's that, there's something stuck here and it needs our help. It needs our love,
Right. It's really us. It's really our child. It is really whatever you want to make it, that is just craving for the love that we're craving for.
Yeah.
We can give this place as people often label it as shadow work, and I hate that because it says that something's dark in you, and that's not the case at all. It's just something is stuck in you, and can we love it? Now, we're way out on the edge, Habiba, and so I'm totally honored that you're having this conversation with me because I attend to a lot of New Age and Ascension and channeling ET kind of stuff on YouTube. Nobody's talking about what we're talking about and the way we're talking about it. And for me, this is why I feel I've been called to start to create these podcasts and really focus on this. For somebody who's managed to stick with us this far through the interview, okay?
Yeah.
I haven't turned it off yet, these crazy people. What am I doing? For somebody who's new to this, but they kind of get the sense, there's something here for me I need to explore. I want to let go of these problems that I've been carrying. I'm tired of being sick and tired all the time, What would you tell somebody who's new coming into this? How would you say that they can get started?
Well, I think that the very first step is to recognize the possibility. We have so many beliefs about how the world works, so many beliefs that are not serving us, that are just like part of the collective belief system or the culture or the society. And it's like, we have to kind of cut through that enough to get that there's a possibility here, that we can actually change things. And, we don't have to have everything be logical and rational, that it can be like the feminine. You can open to receive it. You can just be present for something. And once you begin to see that and you begin to stop blaming yourself for your wounding, because I think as women, we actually do that. It's like, it was...
And men too. It's like one of the best teachings I ever heard was Kumarji, when I was at the Oneness Temple, said, given your state of consciousness, there's nothing else you could have done. There's no blame because you held that level of density. I get in discussions with my wife all the time about as the craziness in the world is revealed and we're seeing the darkness that's really being intentionally expressed. She's like, how can people do that? And I'm like, they don't even have the consciousness to understand that they're hurting themselves and their kids. I think Matt Kahn's latest book, The Universe Always Has a Plan, his very first tenet in that book is you've never done anything wrong.
Exactly. And the thing is, too, it's like what you feel and what gets triggered inside of you is not necessarily yours. Because so many of us are empaths, so we're picking it up from the collective. So
that's what I'd like to just kind of take and finish this discussion with, this idea that as I've grown in consciousness, I realize that thoughts are not mine. Consciousness is not mine. All right. Even this body is not mine. That The all that is expressing through me as a focal point, which I get the beauty of saying, because this is kind of funny, but it's how it works for me. Is my divine knows that I like taking credit for things. I told you I'm a double Leo and stuff. I like significance, so my divine lets me think it's all my idea. So I'll listen. And my divine's totally okay with me taking the credit, because I know in my heart that while I'm taking the credit, it's really coming from source. But it's okay for me to be on stage going, "Oh, look what I did, Mom, look what I did."
All right, whatever works.
Right? So say more about clearing the collective, how this kind of internal emotional work uplifts everybody.
Well, when we're all connected, okay, we are all one, really. And this is the Sufi belief. It's like the central core of Islam, actually, too, is La ilaha illallah. There is only the divine one. There is only, which we call Allah, but it's called by many names, you know. So
Right. I've heard it said that God doesn't care what you call it. God cares that you call it.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, and we're connected. We're part of that. When you believe La ilaha illallah, there's nothing but the divine, then everyone is divine, and every situation is divine, and all of creation is divine, you know, and sometimes you have to go through the surface wounding in order to get to that spark of divine nature, but it's there, and it's there everywhere. Now I forgot the question.
So let me just expound for a moment and we'll get back to it. The more I do emotional clearing, right, the more not only do my ancestors show up, but the more I start to just automatically do clearing for people around me without intent. I'll be in a process where I'm trying to work on something. I really won't have anything that's up. And then because I'm open, my awareness and my consciousness will go, oh, to this person in my life. My wife is doing this all the time for her kids, okay? They don't even know it, right? And, you know, because we've done this enough and we trust enough that our unconscious takes us to the right place. Our divine takes us to the right place to clear what can be cleared. So we can actually clear for other people, although I would not recommend you start with that as your intent. You've got to clear yourself, and that's the big focal point. And then what I find is that pockets of energy are created around us, okay? That people say this all the time. People I know who are awakened and doing their emotional work, they'll say, you know, so-and-so came into my office at work today and said, boy, it's really nice being in your office. I just don't know why. and that happens all the time. And so this energy is attractive, but it's also uplifting. It frees other people. And on the bigger picture, of course, all the chaos that we're seeing in the world, that's the expression of the diehards who are just rubbing up against the love and light, because it's not like we're giving them love and light. We're clearing ourselves so we're bigger beacons, and they just can't stand the vibration, and we're seeing it acted out. So tell me your take on how doing your inner work clears the collective.
Well, like I was saying, because we're all connected, you know, it's like when I clear something, it clears that pattern wherever it goes out into the collective. This is my belief anyway. It's like it may just be a small strand that gets cleared, but something gets cleared. And the thing is, what we're feeling and what rises up in us can belong to the collective. You know, it's like collective pain. So I tell people, like, you know, if you feel it, you can heal it.
Right. There's so many times that once I became awakened and my wife became awakened, we'd wake up in the morning, we just feel terrible and we don't know what's going on. And we'd bother to look at the news because it's such garbage anyway. And we'd see, oh, another mass shooting. So without knowing what was going on, we were picking up that from the collective. So we would just clear, not that we could clear it for everybody, but we can clear the parts that we're holding that are magnetically attracting it, which loosens it up for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. So I just want to wrap this up by saying that, again, it's important. Like, subscribe, share, follow. please help spread the word. If you care to make a donation, you can do that at the becomingawesome.podbean.com. You can click on the patron button there, or if you're watching the video, you can look at the link below. Now, for $11 a month, you'll get, if you choose to do a donation at that level, you'll get access to a ton of recorded processes helping you move charges. So you'll have a whole library to help you move this stuff. Now, Habiba, can you tell our listeners how people can get in touch with you and the work that you do?
Yes, I have a Facebook page called Habiba Ashki Kabir. And maybe, Peter, when you put this up, you can put that.
There will be a link beneath the video and in the video, but for those of you listening, say it again.
Habiba Ashki Kabir. That's my name. And that's the Facebook page. And there's also a website called belovedoflove.com.
Great. Belovedoflove.com.
Which is what Habiba Ashki means.
Ah, very nice. If you're going to get a name, you may as well get the good one.
I thought.
Very, very nice. So yeah, so people can contact you, and you can take it from there and whatever terms you interact with people. But just everybody listening, come on, you're not alone. You are connected. If you're not feeling it, it's very, very likely because of blockages. That's why we're doing this episode today. It's why Habiba has so graciously come forward to share her story, because it's inspirational. It's like anybody can go through this. Habiba talked about how she was blessed, and from a very early age, she sensed something was wrong, but she had to look and find. All right, me, I was just raised in a dysfunctional family and in pain and a drug addict for a long time. So that was what I had to do, go through that path to clear. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you start.
Yes.
And because we're moving into 5D, Gaia is being beneficent. There's so much energy to help you now. Things that took people before us carrying the machete, took them years to clear, you can clear quickly, easily. All right? So help uplift the planet. Any last words, Habiba?
No, just that you can do it. So start.
Nice. All right. Many blessings to everyone. Thank you so much. You don't know how much you're loved. And if you really want to find out how much you're loved, clear some of those things that are stopping you and just drink it in. All right. Till next time, stay blessed, everyone.
Bye, Peter.